Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Inworld Review. I'm pleased to say that it's not April the 1st, even though it may look a bit like it from our costumes. Today is in fact April the 4th, and that means it's the first Saturday of the month, and we are coming to you live from our good old home studios at Chilbo in Second Life. Now, me being me, I didn't actually realize that this was a holiday weekend of sorts until about 2 days ago. Our grand return to Second Life this month didn't quite pan out as we intended. So, unfortunately, Maria Korolev is still ill. Apparently, it is laryngitis she's got, but she's on medication and she's pretty sure she apparently has recovered her voice, though she describes it as akin to a squeaky mouse. But she is fairly confident she will be back to normal voice-wise by next week. And for those who follow her blog at hypergoodbusiness.com, she does assure me that she's up to spending quite a bit of time this week updating her blog posts and news and stuff like that. She has posted a bit this week, but not an incredible amount. So basically, I'm joined, of course, by my other co-host, my ye olde co-host, as it were, is Tara Yates. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you, Mel.
I'm looking at the camera monitor here, and I still can't get over this contraption that appears to have landed on my head, but we're all wearing them, so... It's one thing rehearsing, it's another thing going into the studio live and seeing yourself wearing it, you know.
Yeah, covered with hatching chicks and rabbits and Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, it's very much a
various and sundry things. Yes,
it's very much a not possible in real life item, although it's borderline.
Well, it could. You could create that. I mean, it looks like it starts from an upended Easter basket.
Like a straw hat, supposedly, but yeah. Well, we won't go there. Well, I suspect we will go there because I'm delighted to say that we have got one other guest with us, and that is none other than Cinders Vale, who, of course, is the host of another great show here from Second Life, Happy Hunting. So, welcome, Cinders.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Tara.
And we will, no doubt, before long, hear all about hunts, and we'll have a chat really about everything that's going along. Now, as usual, I've opened up my very own Twitter feed, which you can find at twitter.com/malburns, or one word, or that's one of them anyway. And I'm just scanning down the list I have in front of me of the main highlight items here, some of them which may come from Hypergood Business. Do go to that address if you want to follow these through. I don't actually have the ready links available, but they're all listed on my Twitter feed. One thing that occurred near the beginning of the week, which resulted in a lot of blogs talking about another positive story about Second Life in the media. I suspect somebody at Linden's actually had a masterstroke for a bit of PR, because most of the articles I've read seem to be reprints of a sort of syndicated item. But it does actually give the mainstream media Second Life in a bit of a new light, because the gist of it is, you read the article and it says, this company was 13 years early to virtual reality and is now making a comeback and preparing for the future. And that is a really... Well, for those of you who love Second Life, that is a nice slant, isn't it? There's no sensationalism about it, but it also puts it in perspective. Linden, VR is the big thing. And hell, Linden Lab were here 13 years ago. 15, if you count Linden World and Philip's early, versions. So
now, it's interesting. It's interesting, Mal, that your read on that headline is it's non-flashy, and my read on that article was it sounded like this. I had this sense of this breathless, eye wide open author who was gobsmacked by the whole VR thing. And it was kind of like, my reaction was, oh, he's been drinking the Kool-Aid, It may have been. It may have also. I may have been influenced a bit by, typically the magazine, the online magazine, is Business Insider.
Mm.
And they've got the typical thing that online publications do of running a side column with most popular articles or related stuff, and one that pops out is one with a little chart, and the headline on that was virtual reality is going to grow like crazy over the next 5 years.
Oh yes.
And shades of the hype cycle. So I saw that and I found myself flinching. Just kind of like,
yeah.
Here we go.
Another link I had here was from the guy at Oculus Rift saying virtual reality is going to blow your mind. The press is full of it, but there's been a lot of focus on hardware in the press, and also trends with cinema, television, all sorts of things. But there hasn't been much about the actual virtual worlds themselves, other than virtual reality instances and games and stuff. And I don't know. It was a sensationalistly sort of framed article, but it got a lot of traction. We printed all over the place in every local paper imaginable. And I just like the context of finally Linden Labs getting some credit for being there 13 years ago.
Yeah, well, ahead of the pack. Yeah. That's good. Yes, I agree.
And they tied that in with a bit of PR about their building a new state-of-the-art platform. And of course, there again, you can say, well, these guys did Second Life, 13 years ago. They're the perfect people to be working on a new platform. Not to mention, of course, that the founders also doing the same thing elsewhere. Which leads me, of course, to the other major item of the week, and that is that the Philip Rosedale's new platform, which has been in a closed alpha testing period for a while, has finally gone into open alpha testing. If you applied as an alpha tester, you've almost certainly now got an invite. And this doesn't mean it's in beta or even open beta. It is very much alpha, but I think we will possibly talk about that a little bit as we go along. Basically, if you want to build experiments and things like that and contact high fidelity and can talk them into an invite, it's they've reached a point where they want to test out scaling and things like that, and have people in there actively using it so they can judge with a greater number of people. Some of the things that have been advertised about the platform aren't in the open beta. For example, you can't use your camera to control your lip sync. And the environments vary from very simplistic to actually quite rich. But the mechanisms by which you can build other than in the sandbox areas are very much to be, they involved a bit of complicated stuff, and not everybody is free to bring them online. But anyway, that was certainly also a very big piece of news this week. Lots of articles this week, to papers and essays and technical stuff. One leads to an article called "Barriers and Enablers to the Use of Virtual Worlds in Higher Education: An Exploration of Educator Perceptions." Has nothing to do with virtual worlds best practices the other week, but is clearly an educational thing and a heavy read, but a worthwhile read if you go to it. There actually is another headline just saying, and it's getting ready to try again. That was again an article about Linden Labs, the new platform. 5 ways to use virtual reality in the enterprise. I can't tell from my list here. That might have been one. No, I don't think it was one of Maria's. She has been very quiet this week. Also announced earlier in the week is the Silicon Valley virtual reality meetup people. They have a big event everywhere, which is the SVVR Conference and Expo. And this year's event, 2015, is coming on May the 18th to 19th, and early bird tickets are available now. That is naturally in San Francisco, where Silicon Valley is. Tara did mention last week it was almost under radar while we were doing a lot of stuff. Alphacon helped promote it out on the military metaverse grid. The Federal Consortium of Virtual Worlds had their event a couple of weeks ago. I mention it simply that you'll find a link to a video online. It's not a video of all the proceedings. It's just a fairly short video of the highlights, but it was a very good video, so I put it up on my main blog and linked it in Twitter. Various other technical items. Hello Simulated World, using collaborative technologies. Anthea Sharp, The Writer's Journey. Now, actually, I hate to admit it, my mind's gone blank on that one, but it did have significance to the metaverse. Also, from via Road to VR, a platform called Diplopia has renamed itself Vivid Vision, and trials are underway. And there was an interview with their developers. It's via my Scoop It blog. Again, more stuff sort of raising its head, shall we say, in response to the VR hardware trend. Too Good to Be True, another piece of hardware which I think actually it might not be a Kickstarter. I think it might be an actual thing called Impression Pi, as in Life of Pi, and it's joining the VR game with a wireless HMD, basically a plug-free device for viewing virtual reality content. More articles about how virtual reality is going to shake up the roles in the future of journalism. Been quite a few articles on that source. This is one that, there is one here from Maria, which is basically 25 universities have now joined the open source virtual reality group, and that's at Hypergrid Business, which is good news. Right, an article from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, adding greater realism to virtual worlds. And another long read, courtesy of Karen Lavelle, a Transworld study of non-game virtual worlds, demographics, attitudes, and preferences. And that's at a site called Academia Edu, which says it all, really, doesn't it? So you can imagine what you're in for there. I've mentioned the opening of the Open Alpha of Hyperdirty. Now, this needs some explanation. Again, I've got the link out. Wear VR, that's wear as in wearing, and then the VR, or one word in capitals, has raised 1.5 million for a universal VR app marketplace. Now, I will add a couple of things of interest here, and that is that Where VR is actually a new commercial project by Nick Mitham, who we often know as K0. He publishes lots of statistical blogs, every quarter at least, on market trends and consumer trends in virtual worlds. And this is an enterprise he has got himself involved with. And I rather like the sound of it, because whether he's found the issue, I don't know. But he is only promoting, distributing, selling, or whatever he's doing, universal VR apps. In other words, if something comes along and it's only for Oculus, or only for Jaunt VR, or only for your cardboard and iPhone and stuff, he's not interested. He only wants to promote platforms that are literally going to bring VR to every single device, and are, they're being designed from the ground up to be non-system eccentric, as it were. So that's kind of nice. And actually, it's the first time I've known Nick, although he's got a big interest in commerce and branding and everything else. It's the first time in recent memory, anyway, I've known Nick to be actually involved in a startup that is actively in marketing as opposed to reporting on marketing. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, the Oculus chief scientist came on and said why virtuality is about to blow you away, but he would say that, wouldn't he, really? another virtual world survey report has yielded interesting results, and that was a blog post at sl.governormarley.com. But it's basically a link to yet another survey report. It's one of the beauties of all this increased interest. We get more surveys and academic reports too, don't we? But they don't go amiss. Nice to read them. Article from the BBC, actually, their technology department. News and filmmakers see virtual reality as giving viewers a far more emphatic view. That's a television take on virtual reality, basically. Right, Wired. I think I actually mentioned this last week. It's been reprinted a couple. If I know I did, because I remember Tara mentioning Chris Dixon. Basically, a project that's been going for 3 years at Cambridge University, and I was looking them up during the week, seeing if I could find anybody to talk to about it. They've already got a staff of, a good startup staff, as it were, of about 20 or 30 people, and they are actually actively still recruiting. They're basically called Improbable. The website is improbable.io. And they're developing a new tool that will make it easy to build dynamic virtual worlds. And once again, I haven't mentioned Nick's little enterprise a minute ago. What they are building probably comes slightly closer to what High Fidelity are doing than anything else. They are actually trying to put the groundwork in place for a system that will allow all sorts of virtual worlds using different game engines, different technologies, to kind of have a way of linking themselves together. They actually cite Unity and the Unreal Engine as two examples of, they sound a bit the same, don't they? But they're actually very different. And they cite that as examples of two platforms where I believe they've got a kind of working demo that actually shows the way they would connect those two different platforms together to interlink. Anyway, they did actually raise a huge amount of investment capital, which we reported last week. And I'm going to be following that company very closely. Because they certainly have the staff, and they have the money, and they have the intent, and they have come out of Cambridge University. So I imagine they are sort of mostly still young, enthusiastic, visionary, and dedicated to coming up with a sort of uncompromising new system. We will wait and see. Immersive Education tweeted in the week. They put out the official call for Immersion 2015, speakers, exhibits, and research, etc. You can find them at Immersive Education, all one word, .org, although the I and the E of education are in capitals. Yes, great. The picture I've got in my notes here doesn't actually show me the dates. It's a fair old way yet, so far that blog, if you want to know. Also, Rhonda Lowry, who of course is Grace McDonough, tweeted in the week a post at Site, which is also about the Improbable, how a startup called Improbable hopes to revolutionize virtual worlds. So she had a little piece on it too. And of course, right, well, we haven't even got to the really big news of the week, especially as far as Second Life here residents are concerned, though in fact, if you use the Firefox viewer, it impacts on OpenSim too. And that is OnLive, a service that has gone through various incarnations. Even BT over here were investors at one point, and has actually been sold in a whole to the Sony Corporation, who are another beleaguered company at the moment. And basically, Sony have bought up all the very valuable patents for streaming games and stuff like that SL Go did. And exactly what they're going to do with them, maybe resell them to pay off their own debts, I don't know. But basically, in buying OnLive, they're closing down the whole service. It's very clear that all they want is the patents, well, as far as we can tell. And unfortunately, this means that as On Live goes away, so does the SL Go service. It doesn't matter whether you used SL Go or Firefox Go, because it did both. It's On Live itself is closed, so those services will no longer be available. Those of you who have accounts will be able to continue to use it, and no extra charges are being made till the 30th of April, but then it's gone. There is a chance we'll have a chap from On Live, Dennis, his name was, who's actually a Second Lifer as well, whether he makes it to next week's show or not. He was nearly on today, but as you can imagine, with this news, all the buzz, he's got his hands full. So, sad news there. Even Linda Lab and the browsers are all saying, you know, it is with great sadness we announced that SL Go is gone. SL Go had advantages, not only in that you could run it on tablets and things like that, but on almost any low-end system, it allowed you to stream in a sort of video format that gave you space smooth responses and stuff like that. And many people who were perfectly capable of sitting on a good machine and logging in still liked it because it was just so quick and smooth. So it will be quite a great loss.
Can I also say, Mel, in a number of my groups that I belong into, there is mourning going on about that going away.
There is, yeah. And I was about to mention that it didn't take very long for somebody to start a petition on, oddly enough, change.org, which is usually used for campaigns to, impeach presidents and things. Yes, this is really about an odd place for them to go to petition Sony about it. So I wish them luck. I mean, I think in the first few days there's just over 100 people signed. It would take a lot more than that to be noticed, and to be quite honest, Sony's reputation is not a company that takes any notice of such things if they can help it. I suspect it. I think if a petition like this was picked up by general users of OnLive who use it for streaming their games and all sorts of other things, it might stand a chance of maybe getting to the boardroom of Sony, even if nothing's done. But I'm afraid a petition that is focused solely on SL Go and SL by default, I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think it would get anywhere. It would have been much better to have got together with a couple of games or whatever and actually had a petition to save on live the whole platform, not just SL Go. But Cinders, yes, it has stirred emotions in Second Life no end, because it's comparatively new, but it's been a godsend to a lot of people with low-end machines and on the road and things like that, hasn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me finish the news here first, and then we'll get round to talking about all that as well. Now, the other thing, Maria mentioned it to me this morning when she texted me and said she still can't speak, but I actually tweeted it in the week. If you are interested in virtual research and quite literally would like to get paid, yes, real world money for spending all day surfing the hypergrid, that sounds like a good job, doesn't it? Hang on, I'm doing that already. Maybe I should claim the fees. Anyway, Maria is advertising for a paid assistant whose job basically will be doing just that. So if you check out hypergridbusiness.com and look for that post, you'll find all the details about how to get in touch with her and persuade her that you are the man or woman for the job. She might accept furry animals too, but I suspect it would be a male or a female that ultimately gets it, whatever their avatar looks like. Right. So, yeah, Sony buying on live, blah, 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 everything else. Oh, one interesting post that did come up following the high fidelity open beta release is that a chap called Austin Tate has been involved in the alpha for and chronicling developments right since the beginning. And his blogs have actually been deliberately kept private and confidential, during the closed alpha period, but now the open alpha's here. Or his posts, which quite literally catalog the development of high fidelity from the start, are actually available. It's you'll have to get it from my tweets. It's blog.inf.ed.ac.uk, I might add. And then there's a whole string of stuff after it. So just go to my tweets.
Oh, it's one of those. There's no way to remember.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way. Even if I managed to get it all up and read it all out, there's no way any of you watching the show are going to remember it that way. So better go to my Twitter feed and click the link. Also, from Road to VR, although I think Maria may have posted on this too. Google Cardboard, which Maria is often talking about, and these devices where you can slot your smartphone into the front of your eyes and get 3D vision and stuff. Well, Google Cardboard's VR app has now exceeded 1 million downloads. So clearly, not everybody wants an Oculus Rift. They're prepared to work with a bit of cardboard. I'm being cynical, but because it works very well, apparently. So Road to VR had a report on that. And I will plug a particularly good video that I put in my main blog yesterday. It's a video of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And it's a compilation video. I think it's about 12, 15 minutes long, showing a whole wide selection of real world heritage sites which have been rebuilt or reconstituted in Second Life specifically. Now, I'm very keen on this sort of thing, but when I actually saw this clip, I didn't realize just how many. These are actually UNESCO, which is the United Nations Education and blah, blah, specific. So this isn't a list of just a video about all the architectural rebuilds and archaeology recreations. This is just specific UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and I don't know. I think there's about 20 or 30 of them, all fully built in Second Life. Not even on OpenSim, just in Second Life. So, very nice piece of video that was, and quite a few surprises in it. Of course, I've yet to track down all the locations mentioned. And finally, a post that came up this morning, 5 hours ago: virtual worlds in Google Plus. The link goes to a site called lavreb, lavreb.wordpress.com, and basically it's a promotion for people using Google Plus. Basically, there are a lot of communities and groups in Google Plus to do with OpenSim and the hypergrid and virtual worlds, even very specific groups in Second Life, and they've basically attempted to compile a list of all the main ones. So if you to save you the trouble of navigating Google Plus yourself, you can just follow the links to the relevant groups. So a nice little touch there. So I'm going to put my little iPad away here, or at least put it on the charger, and depending how we go, I'll switch to the Second Life feed. There we are. It's on its charger. As we go a little bit later, if we've got time. So before we get talking with Cinders in depth, I'm going to hand over to Tara for her take on the week and all sorts of goodies from Second Life, and maybe a bit of show and tell on anything I might have missed, which is usually quite a lot. Tara.
Thank you, Mal. Well, fortunately, I do have at least a couple things that you did miss still on my list. so that's to the good. But since we are in Second Life, and I seem to accumulate stuff over here a lot, and I have this sort of habit of doing a little show and tell at the beginning of my segment when we're in Second Life. I do have some show and tell. Now, obviously, this being Easter weekend, and spring is now underway, so Mel has already remarked on the hats we're all wearing, and Mel definitely takes the cake for the biggest hat this round.
Oh yes, yes.
As you've seen, and we won't talk about who is wearing the most tasteful hat or the most tasteless.
Oh, come on, Cinders wins this one.
I rather love Tara's hat.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
your head is a whole bouquet of foliage. It's just whoa. Yeah, no,
And
Tara's
butterflies.
equally stylish. I think we represent variety between the three of us, don't we?
Yes. Well,
Oh,
anyway,
even the bear's got one
there's
on.
there's 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 more to see here than just hats. And one of these, one of my kind of my favorite in-world designers, one of many, is the people behind Dysfunctional Dolly Designs, and they have come out with some truly marvelous cows. You know,
Sorry, cows.
cows, milk
Okay,
cows,
yeah, there, yeah, I
moo
know.
cows,
You move.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and they're out
okay.
in front here.
Just checking. I heard you. Okay, let's scan
Yeah,
out and have a look at
cows,
them.
yes, yeah, yeah, and you know, well, I often bring in
Oh, they're
different
way out here.
critters.
Okay.
Yes, they're out in the field. They're out amongst the
Whoa.
tulips. Now, the tulips, of course, this wonderful field of tulips, is the work from these. Those are from Organica. If
Mm.
you're shopping for sprinklers, and want the kind that you can fill up a field with, they have them in multiple colors. But um, I have in my inventory, going back to my very earliest days in Second Life, the original Virtue cow, which is a prim cow. And one of my early endeavors in scripting was figuring out how to make the Virtue cow a cow for cow tipping. And I finally succeeded in doing so. It's in my inventory somewhere. It lived here for quite some time on the neighboring sim, and in a remodel, it got put back in inventory. I never got it out again. But these guys that you see, as you see, they move sometimes. Their tails wiggle, and they also moo. Although you won't hear the mooing on the show because you're not hearing Inworld sounds. But anyway, those are, as I say, from Dysfunctional Dolly Design, and they're in the current round at the Fantasy Collective, which is one of those one sim, many designers with a few items each. And if you're interested in some interesting takes on fantasy attire, that's a good one to go wander around in. But you'll also find Bessie the cow, and she comes. She can be multiple colors, and you can res as many as you want. So you can have a whole field full of cows, cattle, all by yourself. But no bull.
Oh, yes, that's probably a good idea. They're not breedable, I
Yes.
take it, therefore.
Yeah. Well, no, these are not breedables.
If it wasn't for those beautiful tulips, I'd have thought we were in a farmyard already. So, but they are mighty impressive, I must say.
Yeah, no chickens. I skipped the bunnies because I know I've done bunnies before. But the other thing I wanted to show you is just a minute. Let me find the right view here on. Let's see. I want that
This
one.
is
Yes, that's the view I want.
behind the cow.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
D-Lab is another one of my favorite stores. D-Lab creates just fun animated things. A lot of fun critters that are definitely anything but real life. And I know you've seen them on here before. And at the Christmas gotcha event, he had this whole array of these pickly, as in little figures that are animated, and it was all basically you could there were 20 or 30 of them in the gotcha, and you could collect a bunch of them and put together a Christmas village, which I did here in Chilbo over the holidays. Well, he came out with a brand new set that's spring and outdoors for the gotcha, the pavilion gotcha that just ended, and also has a few, which includes these Easter egg ones in the D-Lab store. So I have more of the more from the gotcha that I didn't put out. But perhaps while I've got the camera here, one of them will go over and climb the rope to the little house. That's the little tree house.
I should point out that I've disappeared from Second Life and I'm relogging, so it's better if you don't turn the camera back to me anyway.
Yeah, they're so cute.
They just, they move around, they interact with each one you get. It comes with something it'll interact with, and any of them will interact with any object that they can interact with. So yeah, here goes one.
It's climbing the rope.
He's climbing the rope. Now what he's going to do, or she, I'm not sure which it is. This one happens to be with the one with bunny ears. We'll get to the top and go over to the door of the little house, and we'll wait for somebody inside that little house to open the door. And there'll be a little exchange with them at the door, and then what will happen next is let me just zoom. Oops, let's see if I can get a zoom in here.
I'm just looking at this camera.
Here, okay. Now we now have the pair. For some reason, this isn't working. Cute, huh? Okay. And then what's going to happen is
So I see
they're going to fly back to the ground on the bird in a minute. But they've got lots of different things they do. And okay, now we should get the bird. Yes, we're going to come over here, and the bird's going to come out. Come on, birdie.
They're waiting.
Yeah.
One bird never moves.
This is like going out into your back garden.
There we go. There's the birdie. Yes, there's the birdie.
It's like wandering out into the back garden, isn't it? You've got cows hanging around, and you're watching the birds and waiting for them to. Hey, yes, there we go.
And they fly over, and then here we come. Here we come. Sorry, I blew it. Bring it down to the land, and then they'll jump off.
It's a long sequence of like.
Oh yeah. He's just, and now there's another one that's headed up there. So anyway, I have spent many an hour. I spent just all kinds of time just watching them in the Christmas village, and I've got enough of them from the Gotcha event to put together a little spring thing, and I just haven't gotten them unpacked yet. It's one of those things that does take a little time to.
Set them up and position them there down and everything.
Yeah,
oh, they are great. So
they're just kind of like watching fish in an aquarium. You just wind up fascinated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beats burning logs any day.
Yeah, it's just he's done just an incredible job on these. And as I say, you get on the Gotcha events, you get a figure. And then you get a bunch of the little guys, and they'll interact with anything that they can interact with. And it's not all it's not like they go from this point to this point to this point repeatedly. They'll go this place, and then they'll go to another, and it's just anyway. It's one of the coolest bits of animated scripting I've seen put together in Second Life, and I'm sure as Mel can attest from the Christmas one. It did take a while for it to download an all res, so you weren't seeing lots of gray nothing. But
yeah.
Anyway,
like
D-Lab is the place.
D-Lab, yeah, they are great.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if he's going to have the Gotcha machine at D-Lab now that the Gotcha event is over. They seem to have some kind of an arrangement where some of the shops do. Because I have successfully found a couple of items that I missed in Gotcha machines elsewhere. So anyhow, so that's the show.
I think there are actually sites around I came across. I haven't been traveling in Second Life for a long while, but there are actually sites that kind of archive the Gotcha things. I mean, they're not widely advertised, but you go there and the vendors are actually put up, all quite officially. They're not copybotted or anything, but
yeah. Well, the other thing you'll find yard sales of Gotcha items that because anytime if there's a Gotcha you love. And you want everything in it, the odds are excellent you're going to end up with some duplicates because that's just the nature of the randomness. And so what people do is they'll treat them as rummage sale items to sell off their duplicates because they're no copy. So you can transfer them and sell them, but you can't make copies. So if you've got 3 of the same thing, and you only have use for one, then
Yeah.
and in fact, if any of you have admired our bear, which bear, by the way, is wearing an unbearably cute hat
Unbearably.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there he is. Anyway, yes, he was a gotcha item, and I have seen them around available in a couple of those yard sales. So it's just for those who want a little different take on shopping, there you go. Let's see. I got an open alpha invite this week for High Fidelity, and finally got in yesterday. And it definitely is an alpha. And this really means, if you're not a geek, save your breath, because you're not going to be very impressed with what you see, because it's kind of like a construction site, if you want. In Maya or Blender or whatever mesh they use. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that's been done in JavaScript that you can plug in and fiddle with. But the big things to keep in mind as a takeaway is kind of right out the gate, you have an avatar, but the avatar doesn't walk, it just moves. Nothing moves on it except the whole avatar, and nothing but the whole avatar. And not only that, if you happen to be in a building that has, for example, stairs to another level, unfortunately, there's no such thing as physics yet. So this means you walk through walls and you walk through stairs. You don't climb stairs. So these are things that certainly wreck any potential for immersiveness at this stage.
I think it's a big misnomer, isn't it? To it is big news that people can get in there and play, but it's like Second Life in the very early days. It's it's alpha. It's not even remotely as a closed beta yet.
Yeah,
so
it's not even. It's alpha.
Days.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I say, if you're a geek, if JavaScript doesn't scare you, if you're interested in really seriously being under the hood, then yeah, check it out. The one takeaway that, as I was wandering around, it occurred to me that we're kind of on this, whatever happens with VR, assuming that it gets some serious traction, to me it struck me, it's very much like, if you go back to the mid to late 80s, the software to learn was PageMaker. When you got into the 90s, the software to learn was Photoshop, and the web design software of your choice. In the current era, the software to learn, if you haven't already, is Blender, and that's assuming you do not have access to the 5-figure budget or an employer where you have access to Maya. So that's kind of, I think, the real takeaway. If you learn Mesh, then you're going to be reasonably well situated for the creative side of, I think, anything that comes down the pike, whether it's high fidelity, whether it's improbable, yeah. Wherever it comes from, I think that is going to be a bottom line on the creative side. So. Anyway, so that's it from on the high fidelity side, and just a couple of news items that caught my attention, and something we've mentioned more than once on this show, in connection with Oculus, and the Oculus developers themselves have talked about it, is the issue of motion sickness, and. There was a very interesting article on a study that has been done at Purdue on one possible way to deal with motion sickness, or simulator sickness, as it's being called, which is clearly a major publisher's major concern. It's lots of people are concerned about it. And anyway, what they did was they added a bit of reality to what is visible when you've got headset on, and that's the upper bridge of your nose, or the upper bridge of a nose.
Yeah.
And apparently this makes a difference. I found it quite fascinating. It's a virtual nose. It's can be an. Let's see. Let me find. They did a study with 43 undergrads, broken into two groups. One using unmodified VR demos, and this was all with Oculus Rift, and another had the same demo with a virtual nose placed where a real nose would appear in front of an environmental. And there was a statistically significant difference in how long people lasted in situations where the degree to which those who got motion sickness experienced it. Those lasted 94.2 seconds longer in a simulated walk around in Tuscan Villa. Now the roller coaster simulation, the increased time was only 2.2 seconds, which isn't real good, but it's something. That's in addition to time to motion, time to sickness measure, they also have subjects for subjective measures. And the group with the virtual nose reported 13 to 14% less discomfort. The one thing that I thought was interesting on this, however, was this study was their group of 43 subjects. They only had 3 women in that study, and some of the research or the comments that have been made is that women are more affected by the motion problem than men are. So, but anyway, it's
does that mean women are just nosier?
No, it's not the nose, Mal. It's the motion sickness piece.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I'm trying to make you be quick here, aren't I? Succeeding not very rapidly.
Mal.
And my last item, an individual, Greg Kaminsky, CEO of Atlanta-based CircleNet, he was convicted last year of hiding money in a Swiss bank, and for failing to report nearly $150,000 in taxable income earned from business activities in Second Life. And he is apparently now serving his sentence on that. He was sentenced this month to 4 months in prison. Even while claiming, quote, there truly was some confusion about whether earnings from the Second Life virtual world were taxable. And apparently, the report on this, that the harshness of the sentence was not primarily over the unreported Second Life income, but the Swiss bank shenanigans. So anyway, so yes, you too can end up in jail if you earn a lot of real money in Second Life and don't report it to the IRS, and you're a U.S. citizen, entitled, subject to U.S. income tax.
Oh boy.
And that's it for me.
I'm fascinated by noses now, aren't I? How can we hide our noses completely? Maybe that would solve the problem. Right. Oh, yes, and my camera's gone back to, well, at least my hat. Okay, well, thank you, Tara. I have to tell you, Cinders, that there's almost a standing joke sometimes. So especially with Bella when we're filming in Second Life and Tara does the show and tell, it sometimes gets to the stage when we got so much stuff cluttering up the stage, we say, hang on, this is like the set of Happy Hunting.
Oh, well, I can kind of agree with that at times, but
not quite.
Not quite. And there are times where it's a bit more under control now. Since we
you mean here or Happy Hunting?
Happy Hunting.
Well, on Happy Hunting, because now we're filming over in Broken Creek, so it's a different setup, and Pet has got me well schooled now to the area she wants to film, the size of the area. So I'm trained. Let's just say that.
I actually thought it was quite fun. I think it was quite fun seeing a camera roaming around all these strange objects. And you think, oh, when are we going to get to that one? What the hell is it anyway? It's like an exhibition that you're still looking through the window and you're just trying to get in and find out what those strange things are. But yes, well, of course, happy hunting. It's a very successful program. It's going every week. Indeed, one of my video posts yesterday was the latest edition because the first embed comes out, I believe, on Fridays. And I have to
Correct.
be honest, actually, being so close to time, I haven't actually watched yesterday's edition yet. Oh, naughty me! But it seems to be an exciting time with hunts. I mean, you've got not just Easter, which there are plenty of Easter hunts, of course, I'm sure you can tell us about, but, it's the spring, isn't it? So the sort
Yes.
of everybody's getting out of the winter hunts and everything else like that and sort of freshening up, shall we say, that sort of spring fever. So what interesting, what all interesting is happening, if that's not a impossible task.
Well, it's like I said on one of the recent shows, for most of you, even over in other parts of the world, you're aware that the Midwest and East Coast of the U.S. really got hit hard this winter.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Snow after snow after snow, blizzard, cold weather, ice, more snow. The poor folks there were just dealing with abnormally a lot of white stuff. And now that spring has finally started to show its head in those parts of the country and things are actually starting to melt, and I do pay attention to comments in the different group chats of the groups that I belong to, and people are being overjoyed. Wow, it actually got up to 40 degrees today, or we didn't get any snow today, or I can see my driveway.
Yes.
So,
Right.
yes, I think any of the hunts that have now been aiming towards spring are being greeted with a lot of smiles, a lot of joy, and just the relief of, no more blizzards. Let me tell you something. I was on Facebook and I was looking at pictures, and I saw a picture, and it was, what did it say? Happy St. Patrick's Day from Maine. And it showed a picture of somebody's backyard, and this father, and I thought, boy, this is a great dad, had shoveled a path to his little boy's swing set, dug just enough around, and the little boy was bundled up to the nines, but Dad had him on the swing, and he was pushing from the front, and the snow was up to Dad's shoulders. And I just thought,
Yeah.
okay, that is a fantastic father.
Yeah.
Who would take the time and use the muscles to dig out just so his little boy could go out and be on his swing. But yes, that did make me think of the hunts. And of course, there are things that are coming up that everybody looks forward to. In fact, in an upcoming show, we'll be talking about the hunt at Fantasy Fair.
Oh, yes.
Which is a HUD hunt, and you do have to use your brain a little bit, folks, but it is a fun one, and the prizes are worth it. There are a lot of great stuff there, and oh my gosh, for April, I'm looking at one of the sites that I use. There are all kinds of hunts. There's also hunts to support other charities, like the Autism Awareness Hunt and some other things, and there's going to be something for everybody. This spring is just going to be incredible for the variety. There's one coming up, I think it's in May or June. Yes, folks, I do look that far in advance to start planning because I do hunts every week. And but there's one that I think it's going to be, what is it, cyber versus steampunk. I think that's the one. And that's one I haven't done before, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out.
I must say that, if I have time to go on that hunt, I do tend, I mean, apart from the really immersive things that you never have time for, like Map P, it's, I tend to go, which are challenging and they're great if you can find the time. But, I like the steampunk ones, I'm always keen to find, because the prizes will inevitably be something unexpected. That's actually some of the beauty of steampunk. You know, people come up with these strange devices and effects and things that are meaningless outside of a steampunk context, but you just find them and you think, "Whoa, that!" You know,
Is really cool.
mm.
But see, for people who don't have a lot of time, that's where doing the sim and store hunts can be productive. Because some of those are very small. Some of the store owners or sim owners make it fairly easy to find. And you can get some great prizes, and it's a chance to check out some place that you haven't ever been to before.
Mm.
And you may just go, wow, this is a cool place.
Mm.
Yeah, Purple Moon is one that has done that with several, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yes, in fact, she's
for
got
women's clothes.
Yeah,
their fashion and.
but she can be wickedly sneaky about where she'll hide some of the things.
That's true. That's true.
There's a legend, isn't there, about the Twisted Hunt, which always advertises itself as the most absolutely difficult, impossible hunt there is.
They are rated, yeah. One of the most hard ones to do.
Yeah, but it seems to get the customers in, so presumably the challenge.
Well, you know, hunters can be competitive.
Mm.
Folks, don't be shaking your heads in denial out there. I've seen this happen. I have done hunts through the years, and I will, happen to start in a store somewhere. Half the time I'm doing one hunt and I find a hunt object for something else, and I wind up going and doing that one. Anyway, I will see the same avatars, and then I become aware they're trying to find the hunt object and get ahead of me. And then I go, oh, no, you don't. So there can be a little bit of a competition edge there. But at the same time, there have been times where if the hunt organizer says, I don't want you IMing each other or typing out an open chat, where something is, and I go, okay, I'm not going to do that, but I will bounce in place or do backflips.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm aware of maybe there's a couple of people there and they're going back and forth in local chat and they're saying, we've been here for 30 minutes. Where is it? Okay, in that case, I will backflip, or like I said, I'll bounce in place.
I suppose you could be really subtle and just put a clue, an obscure extra clue of your own in chat.
Well, I do try to respect the hunt organizer's rules, but as long as they don't say I can't bounce in place, I'm not showing where it is. I'm just giving the general vicinity. And sometimes I've done this and people just ignore me, and I figure, okay, fine. If you don't want a little hint, I'm leaving. And there have been other people who suddenly realize that I've been doing this, and they start heading over to me, and I'll wave, and then I leave. And I figure, okay.
Well, it's been a long time actually since we've done it. But I used to go in on hunts with Tara here, and it wasn't really a race, but there was that thing of who was going to find it first and stuff. And then immediately tell the other one, of course. And then the other one would fire something first and whatever. But I think the politest way to look at this actually is to sort of say, well, this one's not just a hunt; it's a sport. It's a competition, a race.
Well, it does take mental acuity. You do need to figure stuff out. You better know how to use the camera controls.
Oh yeah,
because folks. You've got to look up, over, around, under, spin it around.
Behind.
Yes, because some hunts will say they don't want you reducing the size of the hunt object. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mm-hmm. I don't appreciate when it's practically made nano size.
Yeah.
No, I think that's making it too hard. And advice out there, merchants, you do that, if a hunter has to spend an hour trying to find it, they're going to leave, and the next time you're in a hunt, they're just going to skip you. They're not even going to bother.
Yeah.
You're driving potential customers away. Bad move.
I do notice there's a lot of retailer shops that do specifically seem to take part in a lot of hunts. You stumble upon a shop and you see there's an advert for this hunt, that hunt, and there'll be 2 or 3 going on at once. And they'll be advertising ones that are coming up. So obviously they're promoting their shop. But when you actually get into the shop to find the hunt prizes, Again, I presume it's down to the hunt organizers because a couple of things you'll stumble across and think, oh, there's a hunt prize. And then another one would just be unlocatable or maybe even requires you to have been to the previous one to have picked up some kind of clue. So it's, actually, if I get really frustrated, I've been known to open something called area search, but that's a bit naughty. So we won't go there.
Oh, like you're not the only one that uses that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
merchants do need to remember, yes, make it fun. You do want people to see your store. But as many of the hunt organizer application note cards state, do not frustrate the hunters.
Mm.
And it does seem like a few merchants just don't seem to get that message. And yes, I'm one of those ones that if I've gone to the same store for several different hunts and they do make it next to impossible to find, I will skip you.
Mm.
And that, for me, folks, that does mean you will not get featured on Happy Hunting.
Oh yes, I better remember.
Yes, you can bounce softly, but you carry a big stick.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just if you do want a chance to get your hunt gift featured, because there are people from fashion blogs and from other blogs who do talk about hunt gifts, and they will feature them on their blogs. So
Yeah.
again, you're missing another opportunity to get your store name and your products out there. So you're doing a big disservice to yourself.
Yeah, I think it swings and roundabouts in a way, isn't it? It's like the people that pay up with quite a lot of lindens to go on a Map B hunt. I mean, they know they're in for an epic, and they know it gets harder and harder with every hunt. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like me who know that if I go and buy that herd, I'm going to take an infernal amount of time to do it and neglecting other things. So I choose, well, maybe I'll pass on this or whatever. But I just on a side note, I'm actually, for the first time, I'm actually sort of building and terraforming a thing of myself on an estate on OpenSim. And I've created this immense maze that even I'm getting lost in.
Oh
And,
my.
I think the adventure is that people go in and, they spend hours wandering around trying to find the entrance to where the maze is. And then when they're in there, they're going to spend an almighty long time trying to find their way around it. Travis tried this and had a whole safari group come over as well. But they were only there for an hour. They didn't stand a chance. But, but I keep wondering now how, I deliberately make things obscure and hidden because I think that's a nice sort of challenge. It's all on one sim, but it's like an endless adventure. And I suddenly think, well, is this the right thing to take if I want visitors? Or our visitors want to come in and see everything in half an hour and then get out again? So I'm never quite sure what market I'm pitching myself at. And I imagine some of the more complex versus simpler hunts are very much the same kind of thing. Knowing your audience.
Yeah, there are certain hunts that the hunting community really look forward to doing every single year, like the Peace on Earth hunt. That's one of the biggies. Some of the old Europe hunts on that sim, those are very popular. And the one at Fantasy Fair, and then of course there's the Race for the Bells at the Christmas Expo. And there are some smaller hunts that are very popular. And then there's some of the other big ones like the Texture Mania. Those are hugely popular. Steampunk. I just blanked out on a number of them, but there are a lot of them.
There's a medieval hunt, which I think there's several, but there's one I used to be quite fond of as well.
Yeah, so, they are well run. They have a great variety of hunt gifts. They do try to keep the quality up. And they have become well established. And I think that all helps. And yes, getting back to like the twisted hunts, those are brain mangling.
Yes, the appropriate name, really, isn't it?
And so are the Mad Pea hunts. Those are, you definitely have to use your brain there. But there's a sense of pride from the hunters who complete it. And I do know that there are hunters who have done a number of like the twisted hunts, and it's almost like a badge of honor when you're the first one to get it done.
Yeah.
You've done it the fastest. And it's kind of like almost getting, not quite the Nobel Prize, but some kind of science award
Yes.
of accomplishment.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you think, in your experience with happy hunting and over the years and things like this, there's when we come across hunts a lot, I mean, they are, and as I agree with what you said earlier, we're always saying that they are the perfect way to explore because you never know, there are too many places to go to. But by doing a hunt, you're satisfying yourself on a quest, but you never know where you're going to end up and what you're going to discover en route over and beyond the hunt prize. You know, you may find yourself in a new shop that's fantastic, or it may be the kind of hunt where you find yourself on a barren mountainscape that is just rendered gorgeously. Um, but do you think, because, when I see the hunts, lots of them are themed. Now, obviously, things like Fantasy Fair has its hunt. Even Virtual World's Best Practices in Education had its own hunt at the conference, very specific ones. And I say, I like a steampunk hunt and a medieval one because I suppose they, whatever role play sensibilities I've got, they appeal to me. But which do you think is, I suppose the easiest question is to ask you what you think is the most predominant. Is there an audience out there who are just passionate hunters and trying to get as many hunts in as possible because hunting is their great activity? Or do you think the greater audience is for groups who go on hunts that is actually targeted to the groups, i.e. medieval role players presumably go on the medieval hunts and things like that? Do you find there's a similar audience going to a lot of hunts, or do you find that the hunts themselves are attracting more unique audiences themselves?
I actually think there's a strong crossover between the two. Just from overhearing conversations in SL voice or typed local chat, and I will see some of the same avatars. I see their names and I go, oh, there's so-and-so again. And it's almost split 50-50. You have the people who love to do hunts for whatever reason. And the reasons are, it's plenty of different reasons. And then you do have the ones who are looking for specific products, but it also depends on the time. Now, when there was going to be, in one of the steampunk communities like Steelhead, they had some big event coming up, I did notice that more people were focusing on the hunts that were more steam-themed, or they were doing hunts looking for kind of steampunkish stuff. That's where a lot of texture hunts get hit, is because they're looking for stuff. So it does seem to ebb and flow. Like I said, I just think it's kind of a mix. The hunting community usually is not that narrow. These are usually people with a wide range of tastes, and why they're hunting, the reason they're going on hunts will change constantly. Yeah. Like right now, a lot of people are looking to freshen up their places for spring and summer. So they're looking for that. And since mesh has come in, I think a lot of people have decided, okay, I still have stuff from 2006, and my significant other is ragging on me that if I don't get a new skin, so they will go on hunts looking for free skins, or they will finally have gotten browbeaten into upgrading to some mesh clothing. Though, as we've all discovered, there are some downsides to it. Sitting, as we were discussing before we started shooting, sitting in some mesh clothing can be problematic. But that's why I keep a lot of my system pants, because it's just easier to deal with. But mesh has impacted a lot. Hunt gifts for the home, a lot of mesh is showing up there now.
Are there actually any hunts that are purely mesh hunts? In other words, you know everything is going to be mesh? Because I imagine somebody cashed in on that.
Oh, yes. In fact, on this week's show, it was enmeshed into spring. was one of the hunts I featured. And that has not been the only hunt, well, in the last year that I've had where it has been required that the gifts all had to be mesh.
Mm.
So it was either a mesh gift or full perm mesh gifts. Bad Cats just did their Ostera hunt, and it was 5 items, but they were all mesh, all full perm. So, those are definitely out there.
Paying attention to hunts again. I've sort of not been paying attention to hunts for a while, but you start talking about full perm mesh and my ears perk up.
Yeah, the mesh thing is one of these sort of subtle things that, I loved it the moment I saw it for things like landscapes and static things because the realism seems so much better. But I never liked the idea of a mesh hair because it's like a perm, as certain kinds of women call it here, where it's like your hair is permanently starched in place and there's no flexies.
No, but that is changing.
It
a
is
lot
now,
of mesh.
yeah.
But now a lot of mesh hair now is a blend of mesh and flexies.
Yeah.
It's just like for evening gowns, it's now quite often a mesh, a combination of a mesh sheath, the basic gown, but the skirt is got a bit of flexi to it.
So it's really mesh object with flexi highlights.
Pretty much. You do need to pay attention to the description, and also when you get click on the hunt poster, and you usually get an information note card of some kind. And if they have a website or a blog, go there and look, because the good hunts and the good hunt organizers will put up images of hunt gifts. So then you get an idea, a good overview of what is available in that hunt. And merchants, if you don't do that, don't send a picture of your hunt gift to the merchant. Again, that's kind of bad for you. People do like to see what they're getting. Just a little hint there. Because sometimes, it does give you an idea of what you can expect. And for guys, you really want to know, okay, does this hunt have anything that I can use?
Yes, there's a lot of women's stuff compared to guys. There have been a number, there have been a number of stories of even where I bought a mesh woolen jumper, and inadvertently not realised that the anatomy is built into it. Put it that way.
Okay, so when you say jumper, we in America would say a sweater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You got to translate every once in a while. But, that is changing gradually. More and more hunts are trying to get where it has to be male and female or a unisex gift.
Yeah.
Or on a recent show, I focused on Castle Rock's World Tour 2015 hunt, and I did one show entirely on some of the men's gifts. Nothing but stuff for the men, and predominantly clothing, because I wanted to let the guys know, yes, this is changing. You may have to do a little detective work to find these things. And again, merchant, if you're doing a men's gift for a hunt, you make sure you send in a picture to be posted on the hunt blog to get the guys into your store, for them to go, oh, this person's got really cool stuff for guys. I'm going to become a new customer.
There are an awful lot. I'm no expert on this, but a friend of mine, she runs the Hypergrid Safari in Open Sim on the Hypergrid, and says to Ember, she makes things and made quite a bit in mesh. In fact, I remember I got some sweaters, as you call them, off her, and I almost didn't get them because I looked at them on the stand and I thought they were women's, but in fact they were men's. It's just the way the shadows fell made me think it was a woman's.
Oh, I get it.
But she and Tonna Wells, another person who makes a lot of stuff out there, was sort of describing me, all the differences, the improvements they can make with rigged mesh and then something else called liquid mesh. And, there seem to be so many variations on the mesh techniques now that in itself is opening up a lot of variety.
Yeah, that would be kind of nice if some of the in-world teaching places had offered basic classes on explaining the difference between the different meshes, because it can get a little bit confusing.
The first mesh costumes I ever got, probably in a hunt. I opened a parcel and then there was sort of about 12 different versions of the same costume, and then it would have a number by it or something. And you literally had to go through wearing each of them to find out which one suited your body type best and make adjustments. And, it wasn't just a matter of opening the box. You had to try on 12 sizes to work out which was going to work for you. So, there were...
That has settled a lot, Mal, from the early days of certainly of mesh clothes, where, what gradually developed over time was, there's kind of a standard of 5 sizes.
Yes.
And they're fairly consistent. There's some things that, some designers, I think, don't pay quite enough attention to, that they rely a little too much on their own entirely too anorectic avatars. But it's much easier to deal with fit and to mix and match, which certainly in women's clothes.
Oh yeah,
I know I'm not the only one who. The pants are from here, but the top's from someplace else, and does the same size work over the pants of this designer that does from somebody else?
It's a shame Maria's not here today, because we were in a bit early today, and I actually did go to great lengths to actually make sure I did a bit of mixing and matching and to wear a new costume. It's not all new, but it's a mix and match. It's a combination that, pants came from one costume, red jacket from another, good old purple silky thing from another. And I thought, well, that should please Maria, if nobody else. I've changed for the first time in a year. But sadly, she's not here to notice. But no, I'm very much the same. It's not just a women's thing. I think you want to individualize yourself. And, if you buy a costume from the shop, there's always a danger you wouldn't meet somebody wearing the same costume. So you deliberately mix and match, so that even if your jacket's the same, you're probably not wearing the same costume underneath, kind of thing.
Well, that's very true, and sometimes you do get disappointed. Now, Tara, maybe you've run into this. I bought a gown that I fell in love with to wear for our first The Hunties Award show. Absolutely adored the dress. I could not get my shape to fit the dress. I even called my friend Deli over, and she said, okay, try this, and I tried that, and she said, nope, now we could not get my shape to work, and I wound up deleting the dress.
Yeah,
and I was so disappointed.
Yeah, I've had some things that in order to get it to fit reasonably through the hips, I end up with a neck that's gaping wide. or those sorts of things. And there's some adjustments I'm happy to tweak my body shape a bit to work with this or that. But if the alpha layer, for example, isn't cut right, you can end up with these plain holes, which is very unattractive. I had on a top earlier today when I was figuring out what to wear today that. The top had the alpha that came with it. The alpha ended, or the alpha started way too early on the arms, and so this gap of about would have been a gap of about 3 inches if it was my real body between the bottom of the sleeves and the top of my arm. What was left of my arm to my hand, and then I discovered there was a second alpha in the box, and that one works much better. But there's all kinds of weird little fit things that can crop up, and it's one reason why I certainly, if it's something I'm going to buy, and it's a designer I don't have other stuff of, I always pick up a demo and just try it on before I plunk down. Lindens.
And isn't it frustrating when they don't make demos available?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I won't even bother then.
Yeah, I'm that way too. Unless it's something really cheap. If it's if it's something if it's 50 lindens or 100 lindens, yeah, I'll try one and see. But yeah, it's definitely not good marketing to.
I sometimes even
demos.
forgetting the demos. I sometimes have a problem working out what something is because it will have a peculiar name and no picture. Like yeah.
You're so right, Mel. And I wish sometimes, and I have said this to the point where some of my friends just kind of roll their eyes. I can't see them, but I know they're doing it. I once took over at Builder's Brewery, Deanne Defoe's, I don't have the title quite correct, but How to Run a Successful Second Life Business.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so often I will do a hunt and I will notice something at the store or it has to do with the hunt gift. And I'm going, this person needs to go and take her class. My friends and I discovered purely by accident. We were at the last Home and Garden Expo. And we were looking around one of the Sims, and we found this builder who was using these wonderful mesh plants. And my real-life cousin, Jer, said, I want to know who made these. So he, right-clicked, edited the plant, found the creator's name, went to his profile, nothing about his business.
Oh.
And I have run into that repeatedly. People who have a business here in Second Life, they're in hunts and they don't have a thing on their profile about it anywhere. I went on to Marketplace and I had to do some detective work, but I finally found him and I again had to do more detective work. I finally found his Inworld store, went there, has great stuff.
Mm.
But there's, it's like...
They didn't think of the obvious way people in Second Life used to track down a creator. Yeah.
No, and I sent him a note card because I always look at their profile to see how they prefer to be contacted. If they say, don't IM me, don't IM them.
Yeah.
And I sent him a note card and I pointed out, your business isn't in your profile. How do you expect people to find you? Kind of comment. Well, he took it well. And he did add it to his profile now.
Mm.
But it is kind of amazing to me that you are running a business and you're overlooking the most obvious way to get found.
The basic stuff. Yeah.
I also find, I suppose, from the business point of view, these are things that have already been sold. But one thing, the problem I do find in my inventory is, I will actually go somewhere, and I'm getting it now a lot on OpenSim too. I'm collecting masses of stuff. I will pick up something I really like and I really want to use. It's not just a casual lift. I'll find something that's free to buy or even buy where it's possible. And I'll get it and I want to take it back over the hypergrid and put it on my land or wear it or something like that. And a couple of days go by and then I look for it and, I can go to my recent things and I can look down the recent list. But remember, I'm picking down and taking stuff off all the while anyway. So that, I may have to go a long way down the recent list. And I can't for the life of me think what I want is, let's say it's a nice little gazebo or something. I'll type in gazebo. I'll type in hut. I'll type in every keyword I can imagine to try and find it. And if I am lucky enough to find it again, I will find it's got a name like sort of Object 66. No, it's not always that awful, and thank God it's not called primitive. But it's some people actually sell you these things and they just have some code name on their own. And the moment you buy it, you want it. There's nothing wrong with that. And they make the sale to you, but you try finding it again when you want it in your inventory. And they just haven't bothered to make it really explicitly clear what the object is in their naming of it. And that, I have to say, drives me up the wall too, because I waste a lot of time scrolling through my inventory. Now, where was that thing? What was it called? Or what would it be called?
Well, when a lot of hunts now, they use a script that randomly renames the hunt object. That's the purpose is
Oh,
to
yeah.
do the area
Oh,
search.
the area search,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you are not organized, if you're doing a hunt and you haven't created a folder for that hunt and you don't keep moving those hunt objects in there, good luck, because you're going to have something that says red pretty tree and you're doing an Easter hunt.
And it's
and a lot of it is just nonsensically linked together words.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have a clue. Which sometimes for me, and especially if that merchant doesn't put in their landmark, I have to go to the hunt blog and find their gift to make sure I identify the correct store. And if you don't submit a picture of your hunt gift and I don't know who you are and your profile doesn't have your store on it, I'm not going to show your gift.
There's something I'm doing at the moment. I mentioned earlier about building my mazes, but I've mentioned this to Tara and Nora Malone and a few of the literary folk around. This maze I've got on my sort of little estate and the Metaworld estate, it's on the Great Canadian Grid. I've actually rezzed, not completely yet, but I've rezzed a lot of little, like little medieval treasure chest. And this treasure chest I'm putting all over in very secret hidden places, both in the maze and around the actual main sim, that people really have to look for. Now, it's going to be a hunt, but it's not going to be a prize hunt. When you find each treasure chest, you will of the sin. And so it would be like a hunt, but you won't win a prize or something you can take. You would just get a copy of the chapter of a novel, and probably the chapters will be to be a certain extent interchangeable and include clues as to where maybe the next chest is to be found. But I was puzzling over this because at the moment I'm just rezzing them and renaming them Treasure Chest 1, Treasure Chest 2, Treasure Chest 3. And I was thinking, well, anybody who can use area search, is going to be able to cheat, And I'm really puzzling over the best way to do that because I've got to find them again, remember?
Oh.
I can't just call them all anonymous things. I'm going to want to go to them to put chapters in them and update them and stuff like that. So it's not the easiest of things, the logistics of setting up a hunt that can't be cheated on or actually quite difficult.
It can be a challenge, and some of the hunt organizers are really good at how they run their hunts, put their hunts together, which is why if they have like a hunt center to promote their upcoming hunts, I go there quite frequently to check and see what's coming up. There are some that are a little tricky. I will admit to using area search on occasion, but folks also remember I'm doing at least 3 hunts per week, and I do have a full-time job in real life, so I can't be spending 8 hours
you're a reporter. You're entitled to use the tools of the trade.
But sometimes the way they name them is what can make it hard to find. A lot of them use abbreviations for their hunt object. Like if it's the Big Bang Boom hunt, they may just use BBB number 03, 01, whatever. Some of them will use periods and colons and semicolons in naming the hunt object with the abbreviation. Again, that's to try and throw off area search, and that can be very successful, by the way. There's different ways, and of course, if you've got that script that renames it, but like you said, you need to be able to pick up your hunt objects eventually that you've put out. What was it, a couple of years ago, I note-carded this hunt organizer because you started at their store. And I asked, did you mean to leave out this hunt object and this hunt object from 2 years ago? And the next day I had an IM waiting for me and went, oh my gosh, I thought I got all those things. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
She'd just forgotten they were there. She'd hid them so well, she forgot they were out there. So then
I think I'm in danger of doing that to myself, actually. Forget them.
Well, now there's one thing you could do, that you could be very random about the names of the objects, but start them off named all the same, so they're easy to find right now.
Yeah.
But then create another avatar with a different name, and have that avatar pick up and put down the actual chests and give them whatever kinds of names is good to throw them off. And then the area search becomes a search for objects who the owner is that avatar name.
Ah, yeah, and actually another that would be a good way of doing it. I wonder
on
whether
occasion.
I could do, because I came across this once completely by mistake and I missed it. Is I could deliberately call them primitive and number them, but I would change the spelling of primitive, so it's like primative.
You could always just call them object.
Yeah, and people the idea of misnaming them is that I'll be able to identify them, but people looking down a list, they don't necessarily see the difference in primative from primitive. So they will just think it's yet another prim, if you see what I mean. But I don't know. We're getting indulgent here.
Okay, but you do realize you can't use that now that you've said it on air.
Oh, yes.
You just shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, well, welcome to my world, folks. Yeah. Well, there you go. Keep my bloody mouth shut, as the expression goes. Pardon my language. Well, look, we surprisingly enough, we've done a whole 90 minutes with just the three of us. I always kind of round off by getting everybody on the show, which would just be us today, to just highlight anything that's great that's happened in the last week or coming up. But before I do, I do have another. If you want more metaverse news apart from Twitter.com Malburns, do check out Twitter.com/hypergoodbusiness, which is Maria's feed of the more business and commerce stuff. But I do have another Twitter feed, which I'm sure regular viewers know by now. It's at Twitter.com/Malburns_writer, which of course is my Second Life avatar name. And that feed contains mostly the this now, and that stream is considerably longer than my main Twitter feed, which of course is the main serious items. So I'm just looking down here at a few things that I think we probably have. I just lost the call? It's just I've been told there's a problem with the call. Can anybody hear me? Oh, darn. Okay, am I back? Hello.
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, very good. Skype just made a rude noise at me and then gave me the same problem with the call. But never mind. Let me continue. So, obviously, in our pay, modemworld.wordpress.com has continuing blogs throughout the week. She, like Conor Macmillan, cover a lot of destinations and arts venues and things. Earlier in the week, Inara returned to a picturesque sim called Hideout, which looked very nice. SL Inquirer had an article about a trip to virtual Venice in Second Life. Let me see. Second Life Digital Art had again at WordPress, had a spotlight on Max Romero. Dan Voyager, actually this isn't Dan Voyager, but Dan Voyager has certainly blogged too on this. Lots of talk at the moment about Burn 2 and the Bernal Equinox. The one I'm looking at is millionhappyendings.wordpress.com. Right, Las Lagunas. These are really just interesting looking new sims and things that might be worth checking out. A blog called Nalates.net had a post on, don't know quite, they post quite a lot. I don't quite know where this came from. Maybe you would know, Tara, but apparently some announcement about Second Life voice fixes are coming very shortly. Which is actually appropriate given today, come to think of it. My non-moving lips.
I did not actually have an opportunity to check through the Eat Your Vegetables stuff this week before the show. So there maybe will be some fixes in the works that I'm not aware of.
Okay, well, I will get to that next week on another show. Or if we will experience them when our lips start moving again. That is also a possibility. Sunshine Library, of course, this week. Murderous Doctors, Beings of Shadow, and Celtic Warriors. I don't know. That was in Arapa's blog, so it's probably one of their Second Life venues. Though, of course, they have venues in Kindly too. The Sanctuary. Let me see. SA Inquirer, Discovering Egypt, various Egyptian builds in Second Life. Issue, which is a place a lot of people post their magazines. A new issue of Virtuosity magazine this week, and later on there's a couple of other magazines that had new issues this week. These are kind of online flip books, and some of them have versions available in Inworld. Let me see. Lots of machinery. I did mention the UNESCO heritage sites earlier. Plenty of press releases around about Fantasy Fair 2015. Daniel Voyager and a whole load of other people have those press releases and various information up. Superb video I came across in the week called Light Thoughts. It's actually a visual document of an installation at LEA 15. And the machinima itself is absolutely wonderful. But I mean, I'm absolutely sure a visit to LEA 15 at the moment is well worth your time too, from what I could see on the video. There is a destination in Second Life at the moment, and I believe there's a destination with the same name on one of the open sim grids. Easter Town. Yes. What would Easter be without Easter Town? There are a couple of machinimas featuring Easter Town. The one I've got here seems to be on Second Life, but I think the other one is out on maybe Littlefield. I'm not sure. A lot of videos coming up about an installation called Ruins by Seeker Ghost, which again I think is LEA. I'm not going to list all the videos, of course. The last edition of Designing Worlds for the current season was up this week and featured, I guess it was an interview with Drasta Debray. No doubt Drasta will start his new season with an interview with Savile Wintershins. Or will it be Elric? I don't know. It's go round in circles, don't they? Daniel Voyager has the press release on Springfest 2015, which I think opened this week or is about to open. Another intriguing sounding exhibition that's getting a lot of coverage is a new installation by Bruno. Her latest one is called Lobby Khan, and you'll find the links in this feed to the blog post, and the blog post will no doubt tell you where it is. I'm pretty sure the Bruno ones are actually at LEA again. A Tale of Two Openings, but I'm not sure what that was. Okay. Balloon Voyages, Songbird. We love the Tinies, folks. The Tinies are a whole community of sort of cartoony sort of characters are really tiny and get up to all sorts of hijinks in Second Life. We always love them. And they had there was a video that just came up in the week called Songbird Tweets the Raglan Talent Show, and it's actually the talent show of 2013, but the thing itself was entirely new, and as usual, I was giggling like hell. Those of you who were watching the show last week already know that Inworlds, which is a a walled garden grid, a bit like Second Life, almost a sort of almost in a Second Life. Really, it's not on the hypergrid. Their CEO, of course, was with us last week, but midweek. April the 1st, wouldn't you guess? They did, generally, really, folks, they did on April the 1st have their official 6-year birthday. It wasn't a hoax. It really wasn't a hoax. And I'm surprised Tara didn't mention the whole catalogue of various hoaxes about the people that bought out Linden Lab on, when was it, Wednesday? And, well, awful lot happened on Wednesday, but I actually tried to avoid the fees on Wednesday, if that's any clue. April Hunt's here, of course. Fab3 at WordPress.com is the link I got for that. I think that may be a syndicated reprint to, oh God, I forget her name site. Do you know Cinders? There's one particular site that just posts more and more hunts every single day. The posts by
Hunt SL?
Yeah, I think so. Is it XAI? Somebody makes the post, or I may be talking through my hat. In fact, given the nature of today's hat, I probably am.
You mean Shia?
Could be. I never know my pronunciation.
Yeah, Shia Nishi.
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So I usually publish a direct link to their post on every Friday, where it's got the Friday Hunt report. But there are endless hunts coming up. I was mentioning magazines earlier. Yeah, 2 other magazines that are available on Issue, and I've embedded them in my Tumblr blog, which you can get to at Twitter. Innovair magazine. Innovair, I think, is a brand in Second Life, but they do a rather nice fashion magazine to go with it. They have their new April issue out 3 days ago, and also a magazine called Fusion Magazine, which again is a principal. I think this has got more variety in it, but it's principally a fashion magazine full of lovely Second Life fashion pictures and stuff like that. We should have a kind of Prim Perfect-y sort of issue type magazine for hunting. Actually, nobody's actually done that. Like a monthly visual hunts magazine.
Oh my goodness!
But God, yeah, the work. But think of the work. Never mind. The Vega Art Gallery has opened, or at least an exhibition there has opened. Virtually speaking, it's an Inworld show I don't often go to, and I didn't, in fact, make it this time round. But it may actually be tomorrow. But I'd have to go to the feed and check, or you can go to slgovernormarley.com to check. But they're actually having an Inworld talk with the key players at Virgin Galactic, who we're going to be meeting in the live virtual studio of Virtually Speaking, and talking to fans of space travel, I guess. But that would not go amiss if I found time in my book to go to that. Right. Oh, yes, another online publication, the April issue of a magazine just called Photography, oddly enough. Again, it's published at Issue, but it's all Second Life photography or virtual world photography.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I'll point you to my Twitter feed and or the link. It's at Issue. It's a landscape format magazine. It's just full of virtual photography. I wish they didn't just call it photography, because you can imagine people searching Issue for magazines about their hobbies, and coming across one just called photography, and they open it and think, oh, well, where the hell did they photograph that one? But yeah, well, I'll dig up the link for you on that, or you can find it on Twitter if you go there. And there's also an April issue of a very well established Second Life magazine called More, published by a guy called Matt Sisloon. Again, it's principally a fashion magazine. Most of the online magazines from Second Life tend to be fashion based, if not exclusively. CanaryBet.com has a post on the milestones in Second Life, interestingly. Oh, yes, and just in time for you, courtesy of SL Inquirer, Idle Rouge's La Cirque de Nuit is coming to town again, April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Well, since today is the 4th, you might catch it, but there's always tomorrow, so that could be good. La Cirque de Nuit. Um, right. Nara talks about dreams might come when you visit Pandora's box. Now this one it came from SL Universe. This I should have sort of mentioned this in the news. This is a quirky item. It was posted at SL Universe and under politics, and the link actually goes to a conversation, a video, where a woman, can't think who she is. Her name appears to be Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, yes.
Talks about Second Life and social media. And all the indications are that this lady is a Second Lifer. Enough said. If you're interested in that kind of thing, you might want to hear what this lady, Monica Lewinsky, thinks about Second Life and some other social media in the video. Safari goes extramural. That was a write-up at pinkstonyafterlife.blogspot.com. That was Thursday's write-up of our Safari this week. I didn't actually make it, except to one venue at the very start. I was too busy in high-fidelity testing, but one of the venues they went to is a rather nice real-world build. A virtual build. If those of you know Fuchsia Nightfire, she's been on the show a few times. She's a real-world artist, and she came up to London here for a couple of weeks recently and was commissioned to do a mural. It was on the side of an old pub, which was a car park on the side, and the wall needed decorating. And she basically created a stack of see-through rooms as a mural painting on the wall. So you had all these, people driving or walking by look up, and it's like they're looking into rooms on the various levels with the wall taken apart, the optical illusion type stuff. But Thursday's rather unique because that was a real world personality that did that, but she modeled the prototype for the whole mural and everything as 3D it was in OpenSim on LF Grid, I believe, and the Safari actually included a visit to the real world model, which she has now, of course, finally turned into a real world mural. So that was very interesting. It's a nice use of an artist who works in Second Life to prototype what their commission is going to be in real life, and then go in real life and do the same thing. So, we've done Brno, Springfest 2015, which, Springfest actually started on April the 3rd and actually finishes tomorrow. So you can go to the SL Inquirer.com for more information on that. Inarpe took a visit to apparently an extremely complex role-play sim in Second Life called Remnants of Earth. And I think Hamlet and quite a few other people have actually covered this recently. And I think it even got some outside coverage in gaming magazines as, a worthy contender for an online game, even though it's actually an environment set up in Second Life. So sounds good. Let me see. Introducing the new Bamboo Koya Theatre. LF Grid, which is the Littlefield Grid, which is one of the hypergrid enabled sims, is also celebrating a birthday at the moment, and are having quite a few various events. Oh, and Daniel Voyager, interestingly, just this morning I picked up on this. Apparently, the regions for, wait for it, Second Life 12B, the 12th birthday party, have just come online, which makes you realize it's not too long before Second Life's 12th birthday bonanza begins. And as usual, there are a whole bunch of regions, maybe a dozen or so, all fixed together, where various people can apply to actually have little exhibitions and take part in talks and events. It's a whole celebration of, all aspects of different cultures and communities in Second Life. And much to be looked forward there. We'll probably turn up there to record a few chat shows, as we are prone to do with our addiction to talking heads. Where are we? Dandelion. This was a post today which sounded and looked more to the point like a great destination, even though technically it's a shopping destination. and it's called Land of Adventure Supplies. And there's more about that at sl.governormarley.com. It just looks like a cool place to visit, and if you're into shopping for wild and zany stuff, it looks like a good thing too. So that's just the highlights of the Inworld tweets there. So we've got a sort of bit of coverage. So it is time to wrap. We would have now just gone past the hour. Yes, we have, of course. Cinders, wonderful to have you on. Is there anything you'd like to just, anything exciting that's happening last week or coming up in the next week in general, other than Just Dance, that takes your fancy? You'd like to tell us about?
Oh, my goodness. Well, as many people out there realize, I'm involved and have been with Relay for Life of Second Life. And of course, the fundraising campaign started mid-March, and we go until mid-July for the Relay weekend. And there are so many events going on. It is hard to get to them, but there are a lot of great events coming up, big and small. A ton of teams again this year. I'm on the Giant Relay Snail team, and we do our one race every month as giant snails, and we go sliming our way around the grid on paths. And there's just so much coming up that it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited hearing about SL12B because happy hunting is always there, along with designing worlds. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And I am ever going to be fighting the inventory battle because as I was telling them before the show started, I am now up to 90,276 items. And I am, this is insane. My goal is to get down to 50,000.
Oh boy, I wish you luck. I mean, knock off 2,000, you'll be as big as me. That's all I can say. And Tara, because we just have matching inventories at the moment. It is a hard job. It's a conversation we've had on previous occasions, better inventory managing tools. Actually, I will give you a little hint, Cinders. Have you ever come across a viewer called Radagast?
Yes.
It works on the desktop, and you can't see Second Life. You can sit on things, you can see objects, click on them, you can do everything except see the visual environment. But I find that logging in with that, I can't obviously be in World with another viewer at the same time. Logging in with that is the best way when I really need to sort my inventory, because its presentation pulls up the inventory like a database or a spreadsheet, and they're not structured like that, but it's just a simple thing. It looks like a normal window rather than Second Life's inventory, and it's just a dream to reorganize, drag things into folders and delete things. The only thing is because you're not in World, you can't individually res everything to check what it is. You do sort of need to know what it is. But it also gives you preview windows of some objects, textures, and objects it can render. You can also sort of get previewed by clicking on preview while you're in your inventory. They don't get resed everywhere. You just see a preview of the object in the inventory. And that is actually very useful. It's one of the few, its other use, of course, is if you really need to quick attend a meeting and can't get in World with your avatar, other people see you as logged in, but you're just in the chat room, so to speak. So it's very useful for certain things. And inventory management is, if you like the interface, it just sort of lends itself to inventory management much more than these clunky boxes that come up on the Second Life interface. So just you might want to check that.
Well, let's see what else is coming up. Yes, spring cleaning in real life.
Oh, yes.
I've decided it's time to start.
It is a problem, isn't it? With the advent of spring comes spring cleaning, and you can't get out of it. I think, I'm very much like that.
But that's only if you have a lockstep association of spring with cleaning. segregate the two. Cleaning
Well,
could be done anytime or never.
well, yes,
Or almost
exactly.
never.
I'm still trying to work out the spring of which year they're talking about. And be prone to putting it off. Oh, spring next year. Okay, that would do. Well, the year after would be better. Never mind. Never mind. Okay, Tara, roundup thoughts.
Oh, my only roundup thought is I know what I have to start. I have to focus on. I have to knuckle down and focus on the next week or so. It's income tax
Oh,
paperwork.
oh, poor you. Yes,
Yes,
that's
but
not so fun.
this too shall pass. Yes.
Yeah, not a fun time of year, unfortunately. So, yes, all of you out there. Well, actually, it's more or less that. Well, the new financial year starts, but I think in Britain you were well and truly scuppered if you hadn't got it done by January. But
Oh, well,
yeah,
your
my
yeah your tax
sympathies.
your tax year
My
your tax
sympathy.
year isn't on an entirely different calendar than ours is.
Yeah. So my sympathies to all Americans who are lumbered with whatever you call self-assessment over there. You're in for a bad week, but look on the bright side. Next time you see me, it will all be over. I hope. Right.
Well, it won't be over. It'll be April 15th is the
Oh,
magic day.
you.
Is the deadline.
Okay. Well, have a happy fortnight, folks. Okay. Yeah, trust me to get it all wrong as usual. I should just keep my mouth shut, shouldn't I? But then, where would we be without my mouth on this show? That's it, folks. It's time for a wrap. We will be joined. We'll be back at our headquarters, the Great Canadian Grid, next week. We'll be joined by Jessica Leon from the Firestorm Viewer. And as I said, we might just be joined by somebody from On Live. And we also may also be joined by somebody else. Despite the small turnout here today, we seem to be rather overloaded for the coming weeks over on the hypergrid. So fun and games all round, I think. So we will see you then. My thanks again to Cinder's Vale, especially as she stepped in at the last minute. And great, really, to have a host of another show on, because we got that sort of common ground. So thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I had a great time, and I'd be happy to come on again.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, we're back here at least once a month, and if I can tempt you to venture into open sim, which would be really a departure, be welcome on over there too. So yes, we will definitely have you back before too long.
Yay!
And of course, thank you to Tara. Thank you, Tara.
You're most welcome.
And all that really.
And the cows. Thank you.
Oh. Sorry. I digress. I'll become a furry at this rate. Straight. And of course, you can go to any roleplay sim, any age, be it a spaceship or prehistoric, and he fits in perfectly without having to change his costume. It is absolutely wonderful role-playing a cat. Well, if you see what I mean. Right. Okay, that's it. It's a wrap, folks, before we go even more over time. All it takes is to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, wherever and whenever you are. And we'll see you soon.